Hey, Howard.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Pleasure. Good,
Good.
good.
Good. How was your day? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Semi-retired and enjoying life.
Waiting to go from semi to fully. May take a little while yet, though. We'll see.
When do you go back on duty?
October 8th, I think I'm going back out to Oregon.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well, for everybody that's going to be watching this, please welcome Mr. Howard Grill of Howard Grill Photography.
thank you. Appreciate it.
So, you ready to get started?
Yeah.
Let's maximize our time here. Zoom cuts us off, unfortunately. So I know very little of your background. I mean, I did a little bit of reading on your website and learned a lot, actually. But for people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, let's see. We were. I guess the part that you read on the website that you hadn't known, which I guess most people don't, know because I sort of keep it separate from the whole photography thing, is that as a profession, I'm not a photographer. I love photography. I enjoy it. It's a big part of my life. But professionally, I'm actually a cardiologist. And about a year ago, a number of things happened a year ago, and I decided, you know what, I'm old enough that it's time that I could go part-time and spend a little more time on some of the things that I want, like my photography. So, I decided to do it before I get too old. So I decided to do it, and I'm working probably about, a third time now.
Okay. So what you told me, I don't know if you want to tell it again here on the show, but what you told me about your part-time work right now, your semi-retired work.
Sure. Well, I decided that if I'm going to work, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like I don't enjoy my work. I do. But, when it comes to cardiology, I'm actually an interventional cardiologist. So we're getting up in the middle of the night all the time to do, procedures. And, after doing it for 30 something years, it get a little trying. But anyway, I decided I would try to combine going part-time with some of my photography. And years ago, I've been to the Oregon coast and loved it there. I mean, it's really an incredible spot for photography.
Sure. Yeah.
So I decided to see if there was some place out there that, needed part-time help. And sure enough, there was, in a little town called Coos Bay, which is about 25-minute drive from Bandon Beach, which is sort of a fairly iconic photographic location.
Hot spot, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, perfect. And so I go out there, once a month for, anywhere from, 8 to 12 days or so, and then take a day or two, to shoot. I have a friend out in Eugene that I know as well. Sometimes, he'll come out and we'll go shooting for a day or two. COVID's made it a little more difficult the last couple months, but
yeah, sure.
What can you say?
So you go out there to help out because they need the help.
Right.
And at the same time, you are in one of the world's great photography spots.
It's a perfect combo. What can I tell you?
That is a win-win, I would think.
Yeah, it really is.
Cool. Have you ever, you said, you've done it, your main profession is a cardiologist, but now that you're semi-retired, do you feel like you're moving towards a professional status, or does not even matter to you? Just do it to make you happy?
No, yeah, I think I'm going to be working part-time for a long time, I think, and the photography is really just something I really love, and so I hate to make it into something that I have to do on somebody else's schedule and to please somebody other than myself. So, I mean, I hope I please everyone with my photos, but I don't have to.
Well, for those who haven't been to Howard's website, when you're watching this, when you're done watching this, go to Howard's website, and I'm going to put all that information down in the description, so you can just click on it, go to his website. I mean, there's some absolutely stunning work on there. I mean, just truly great stuff.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
So, Okay, so you've been a cardiologist for 30 years. When did you actually get into photography? Was it prior to that, or has it been something you picked up along the way since?
Well, interestingly, it's something that I've always been interested in. I remember from my eighth grade uh, graduation present, I asked my parents to get me a camera, in a small enlarger, and I started shooting some, black and white film and developing it in the basement. I guess, that's a story you probably hear from a ton of photographers, but that's what I started doing. And when I went to college and medical school, etc., I put it away for a long time. I tried taking it out, every so often, but yeah, it was tough. And then probably about, I want to say 15, 16 years ago, I started doing it again pretty seriously. So,
At this point, you had moved on to digital. Is that?
uh, I started again sort of just at the point when digital was starting to come in, but film was still, the predominant,
Sure. Yeah.
genre, I think. So when I restarted, I started with film for a couple of years and then ultimately moved to digital.
Okay. Which do you prefer?
Digital. I mean, it's, let's put it like this, you can have your cup of coffee while you're processing, as opposed to, spending time mixing chemicals. And
Sure.
actually, I was shooting at that time, a lot of slides, and you'd send them off and bring them back, but you weren't making prints out of them. It's really very satisfying now to, be able to process, learn new techniques. And I love printing. So,
Yes.
making prints is really a great, thing you can do now pretty easily.
I don't know if you just said it, I might have missed it, but did you, back in the eighth grade, your first camera, do you remember what it was?
Do you have about 3 seconds for the screen to go blank?
Yeah.
I have a little collection here of old cameras. Hang on. This is it. It's I still have it. It's a Bessler. I'll hold it up. It's a Bessler Topcon Auto 100.
Wow.
And yeah, it's still, it makes quite a thunk. Here, I don't know if you can hear it over the internet, but
Oh, I can hear it. Yeah.
it's quite a thunk when you release that shutter.
So that was the very first one. That was eighth grade.
That was eighth grade, yeah. And I had and they got me like a starter Vivitar enlarger. And so, I used to go into the linen closet and stuff towels on the door and try to load that film onto the reel, and it was fun.
So I'm trying to do my math in my head. What year would have?
I'd have to say.
So you're about 8 years older than me. No, you're about 10 years older than me, I think.
Probably 70 or 71, something
Okay.
like that.
Okay. Does that camera still work? Do you know?
It seems to work. I mean, I haven't put film in it for ages.
And no desire to.
No desire to, but I suspect it probably works.
Well, technology.
I can see the needles move. So.
Well, I'm waiting on a battery for my Canon AE1 that I just realized that I had. So I'm not sure if it works. I'm hoping it works, but I mean, that's going to be a lesson because I don't remember how to use any of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to have to watch YouTube videos and instructional videos on how to use it again. I
remember in your video, you talked about Ben's channel. I watch his channel as well in terms of shooting film and so on.
I don't know how old Ben is, but he seems, I would say 20, 21, something like that. Maybe I may be off a few years, but I mean, it's so
cool.
He's
younger than us.
He is very much younger than us. And I just think it's interesting that he's just so into the film, and all those cameras he had set out in his most recent video. I've never seen one except for that Canon AE1. That's what jogged my memory that I actually had that camera. So yeah, I think it's just cool that somebody so young is kind of, I guess it's kind of like a younger kid nowadays who wants to go back and experience vinyl records. I have no desire to go back to vinyl records. I think they sound terrible.
Yeah, I actually have all of my old vinyl records from like when I was a teenager. I can't say I have anything good to play them on. Now, you know.
So technology has kind of maybe changed and improved a little bit over the years. So what camera equipment are you currently using?
I'm actually sort of in transition. I've always, since I restarted again 15 or 16 years ago, I've always used Canon, not because, you know, it's any different or any better. I just went into a camera store because they existed at the time and just held an Icon and held a Canon and, you know, played around a little, and it just felt a little better in my hands. So that's what I went with. And I've stuck with it ever since. I have a 5D Mark IV, and I want to move into mirrorless because I can see that that's the way things are going. And so I actually ordered an R5, and I got an email today from B&H saying that they shipped it and it's coming tomorrow. So
all right, yeah,
I'm excited about that.
so that's the Canon mirrorless camera, the
new
Mark
one
V. Yeah,
the new one that just came out. Yeah,
cool.
and I got a little adapter to use my EF lenses. So
Okay, well, so you didn't want to come over to the dark side to Sony, huh?
Well, I actually, when I was going mirrorless, when I decided I would want to go mirrorless, I was debating Sony or Canon, but I have all these, by this time you have all the Canon lenses and I'm used to the system. So,
I mean, really, can you go wrong nowadays? I mean, there's just all so good, the Z6 by Nikon or Z7, whatever they're up to now, and Canons and even Fuji. I mean, they're all great cameras.
Yeah,
I just don't think you can go wrong.
I think the cameras are better, probably better, I'm sure are better than me as a photographer. I mean, it's really, at this point you could do almost anything I would think that you want with them.
Sure. So some of your videos, you do tutorials with Lightroom and Photoshop. How did you, is that something you've taught yourself, or is that something you've taken lessons, or do you watch videos online to just get better and learn new techniques?
Well, in the beginning, I just got a whole bunch of books. I think I started with Photoshop 6 or something, like 5 or 6. And I just got, a bunch of Scott Kelby books initially. And then I sort of, went into some more advanced books and started learning. Now there's so much, available online in terms of coursework.
Sure.
So I have been doing some of the more advanced, stuff, learning about it online. But I'm fascinated by it and all the things that, you can do with Photoshop.
Do you, so you enjoy the actual editing process then?
I do. I know a lot of people say, oh, I just want to be out in the field. And I like being out in the field, but I enjoy sort of the creative process and trying to get things to move into the way you envision them. And sometimes you find mysterious things along the way and you go down a different path, and it's sort of fun seeing what comes out. It's not always what I envision, but it's always a fun trip.
I mean, I'm with you. I enjoy the editing process. And back when I was a musician, I liked the recording process. We'd write a song, and I like that part too, but I really enjoyed the recording and the editing of the song, and then the actual end recording and the mixing and the mastering. So I've always liked that after the fact part.
It's funny because I love music, but I have no talent in music. Well, you're a musician, and it's interesting that, people say that a lot of, there's a correlation that a lot of musicians really love photography, that there's an enhanced number of photographers that are musicians as well.
Well, just by, in this small group of people who we follow here on YouTube, there's several that I've run across. There's Dave over in England. There's Mike here in St. Petersburg. Paul Ferrace does all of his own music, and then several others that I've learned here recently. I'll either play, they see my guitar sitting in my studio or whatever, and oh yeah, I play too, and I love the song. I want to do that. And Paul does all of his own music, I think.
Yeah, it's incredible, really.
I mean, I put a couple of my songs in, just kind of as fillers here and there, but I think it's got to be pretty satisfying for him to not use anybody else's music. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it
is.
Right.
Cool. See, tell us, I'm really interested in your Inspiring Photographers series that you have going on your YouTube channel. Tell us a little bit about that and tell us where you came up with that idea.
Well, since I started getting a little more time, and I had been thinking for a while about, I have a website and a blog, but I think reading people's written blogs are something that I think has faded over the years. It's not quite as popular as it used to be.
Yep.
And so I was thinking about ways to, interact with people, that are interested in photography beyond just the blog. And it seemed like YouTube, was, it seemed like the thing to do. And, but if you go on YouTube, you see a lot of photography related material. And initially I said, oh, I'll get a GoPro but when I sort of searched inside myself, I realized it's really still photography that I love and that I really want to do. I don't really have that great an interest in video.
Okay.
And so I knew that it wasn't going to work over the long term because it wasn't going to be me. When I'm out photographing, I get into this. I mean, it's almost like a Zen-like thing. I'm sure you've experienced that, where you're very focused on the image and composing.
Sure.
And I didn't think I'd be very good at showing people what I'm doing. But at the same time, I love photography. I love talking about photography. I love being inspired by other photographers and, books and photo books and so on. So I said, well, why not try that? It doesn't, have to just be about what I'm doing. It could be about what inspires me and what interests me. And, that'll probably keep me going because it's something that I'm interested in. So I gave it a whirl.
Now you've introduced several photographers on those shows. That frankly, I've never heard of. Are there any particular ones that are your absolute favorite?
You mean from in general,
or just in general? Any photographers that just inspire you?
Yeah, I love like all of Michael Kenna's work. I'm really moved by his stuff. I have a lot of his books. Keith Carter, I really enjoy. In terms of, but interesting, I'm naming a lot of black and white. Cole Thompson, who I did a video on, and I've met him and actually owned some of his prints. I really enjoy his work. In terms of color, I really like Saul Leiter. I may be pronouncing his last name wrong. I don't know. But there's so much good work out there.
Sure.
And those were all pretty famous people. Actually, the people that I've sort of used in my creative inspiration has been more lesser known people. Some of them I know personally.
Okay.
Not all of them I do by any means. For example, Huntington Witherell, another black and white photographer that I did a piece on. I've seen his work and Len's work, and I have a book or two of his. And I just emailed him because I don't want to I don't want to present anybody that I don't have permission to use their work. So I've always asked, and so I emailed him, and asked him if I can use his work, and he said sure. So,
No resistance from anybody?
Not yet.
That's great. That's great. So you mentioned several of those black and white photographers. Do you do a lot of black and white photography yourself?
I do some black and white. I do more color. I've done some black and white series. Again, on my website, I've done a series of actually portraits of my patients on my website. I had an opportunity to do a series on an old abandoned steel mill in the Pittsburgh area.
That's cool.
And I've done some black and white, botanicals. But I think more of my landscape work is actually color as opposed to black and white.
Okay.
I enjoy both.
So there's a certain aspect to your channel about introducing us to these photographers and frankly some maybe photography history there. Do you consider yourself are you a history buff in general, or is it just led you down that path?
I'll tell you what led me. Honestly, I've only really done two of the history things, and I have one or two more planned. you know, what led me down that path was somebody that I know from Instagram, and actually made some comments on the YouTube video. Said, you know, I don't want you to think, you know, this is weird, but I like photographing things that have died, like dead flowers, and, you know, things that, you know, are a little spooky in a way. And it reminded me of this article that I read about the history of spirit photography. And so I said, I'm going to get that article, look it up. And it was just really interesting. And so I went on the internet, did some searches of, you know, of the information, and came back with some really, you know, interesting stuff. So I said, this would make a pretty interesting video.
No.
We'll try it.
No, it definitely was, because I think I told you I was sitting out on the patio with my wife enjoying a nice night we had last week, and I was listening to or watching your video on the spirit photography, and my wife loves that kind of thing. She grabbed the phone out of my hand. I had to go back and rewatch it because she doesn't even care about photography so much, but yeah, she thought what you did with that was just fantastic. So, you know,
well, part two is on Thursday with pictures, and actually it includes the most well-known or the guy's most famous spirit photograph is when Abe Lincoln's widow came to him, and actually that's what's in the thumbnail. And he took a picture, and Abe is resting his arm on, you know, on her shoulder. So
I think it's interesting back in the old times, you know, late 1800s, that a lot of people used to take pictures of their kids, you know, if they passed away prematurely, and kind of create like a family book of the dead.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I actually have one in my family. I have a lot of genealogy stuff that I work on, and I do have a lot of pictures, individual pictures of dead relatives over the years. And so now, like unfortunately, when my family members pass away, if they have an open casket, it's kind of a natural thing for me to want to take a picture of them. I don't, you know, some people think that might be in bad taste, but, you know, I probably have 20 pictures of dead relatives over the years.
Yeah, like you said, I think at one point it was like a regular thing because that was the way that you remember them.
And that might be the only photograph they actually had of an infant that might have passed away, you know. Yeah, very, very, very interesting stuff. Well, I can't wait to see more of the history thing because, like I said, I was telling Dave from Let's Click, sometimes after I'm done watching your videos that I feel like I've come out of, you know, history class or, you know, the history of photography class kind of thing. And it's great because to me, you're doing something totally different than, you know, some of the other, you know, you're not out, you know, running around in swamps and, you know, hiking, you know, big mountains and stuff like that. But I feel very inspired myself after watching your videos because it's not something that I'm getting from other channels.
Well, thank you. That's nice of you to say.
So I saw you did the first couple of videos. You had like uploads from maybe about 4 years ago. There was a couple of them, but then there was a kind of gap, and it seemed like you started doing more regular uploads about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah. You know, those ones from 2000, there were like there were like 3 of them from 2016, 2017. And, you know, at the time I was co-leading a workshop on the Oregon coast, actually. And the person who was leading it said, you know, well, let's have the people that are participating send in some photos, make an introductory slideshow. Can you write something up on, you know, how to have them size their photos, you know, properly so we don't have to do all the resizing? So I started to, I said, you know, if I was reading this, I wouldn't quite understand. It'd probably be easier just to show them. And so I made, you know, a YouTube video on how to properly resize. And, you know, I did 1 or 2, but, you know, again, I was working, you know, much more than I am now. I was working pretty hard. Didn't really have the time for it. And then, you know, when I went part-time a year ago, I started thinking about it. And, you know, it's always hard to get started. You say, I'm not going to be good at this. I don't have the equipment. I don't know how to. And finally, you know, I mean, you know, there's all these videos out there from different people about how to start a channel and all the, you know, motivational stuff. And at one point I just saw one that says, if you're thinking about it, just do it.
Just do it. Start uploading, right?
Right. And if you think you're going to make a crappy video, you're right. You will. But you know what? The world's not going to come to an end.
No, not at all.
Nobody's going to think anything. They don't have enough time to think about your crappy video. So just do it. So actually, the first 2 or 3 or something I made with my iPhone, because I didn't even want to bother trying to figure out how to use my DSLR for video. You know, after I said, well, if I'm going to do this regularly, I should probably just figure out, you know, how to set it up with my Mark IV. So I did.
So do you have any big plans for your channel that you want to let us in on, or you know, what's your vision of your channel now that you do have a little bit more time?
I think, you know, again, focusing more on you know, discussing photography, things that inspire me, things that I hope, you know, might inspire other people. I also like Photoshop, so, you know, throw in some Photoshop.
Yeah, keep those coming.
Different things. Yeah, so
okay.
I think we'll keep it along those lines, because I don't think I'd be very good about, you know, showing people out in the field how I'm doing it. And, you know, guys like you do it great, much better than I would. So I enjoy watching it. But
well, maybe one of these times you'll do a quick little vlog from Bandon, Oregon.
Yeah, maybe.
Love to see that. All right. Yeah, would love your love your channel, and everybody I talk to loves your channel. So you're doing something good.
I appreciate that.
Hey, you mentioned a little bit ago that you really like the whole printing process too. Do you actually do a lot of the printing there at home?
Yeah, let me see if I can turn this. Hold on. I have I don't know if you can.
Oh,
well, it's covered with that cover there.
Yeah,
but
I
have a wide format printer, and you know, I like printing. You know, when you go wide format, which I did a couple of years ago, it's something you can't do just, you know, on occasion, because you really have to. It's not something you can let sit for weeks without printing. So pretty much most photos that I seriously process and bring through the processing, you know, I have a hard drive, you know, I'm sure you do too. There's thousands of photos that
Absolutely.
are not processed. But the ones that I choose, you know, I want to make a print out of. Usually they're small, but, you know, sometimes I print on, you know, because I can print big and frame them and have them in the house. When I was working full time, the hospital that I worked for actually started in the last couple of years opening outpatient facilities. They opened 3 of them. So I actually sold them the artwork, you know, big prints, sold them the artwork for their outpatient facilities.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
What for some of us, I don't know anything about printing at home really. So you got to keep that ink moving. Is that why you print a lot? Is that?
Well, yeah, you don't want the ink to clot in the print head. So you have to, I mean, the smaller printers, it's not as much as a problem as I think with the bigger printers. So, you know, if they just sit, you'll get problems with the print head. So it's really to get a wide format printer is really a commitment, you know.
Oh, I bet. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm sure are there just all your photographs all over your house? Is that all you have? Is your photographs hanging up?
I have a lot of them. No, I have some others. I have, you know, some other people's photographs as well, because I like getting prints from other people. But I have a lot of mine hanging up. I have a lot of mine hanging up.
Good. All right. Just so you know, because you don't show a ton of your photos on your YouTube channel. So where can people go to view your work? I know you have a website. What's the address on your website? It's
just my name.com, Howard Grill.
HowardGrill.com.
WYRDGRILL.com. And there's a number of different portfolios there. I've been a little remiss about putting the more recent stuff on there, as I think most people are with their websites. But yeah, so that's where most of my, you know, work over time has been. But
okay, and you have Instagram too.
I have an Instagram feed. It's just my name, Howard Grill.
Howard Grill. And
the YouTube channel, for the YouTube channel is Howard Grill Photography, because Howard Grill is just, you know, where I was using it before I started making my own work.
All right. Anything else you want us to to know about you?
Uh, I don't think so. I think that's it.
Right.
I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm enjoying, a little extra time. I enjoy making the YouTube videos, and I like getting out there and photographing. I was out this morning actually. So
Now you live around the Pittsburgh area, right?
yeah, yeah.
Are your leaves starting to change yet?
Very little. I think sort of mid-October
Mid-October.
is sort of the peak time for that here.
My mom just moved up to Virginia, so I'm trying to plan a week where I can get up there and actually photograph. She was in Michigan last year, and I missed it by probably about a week.
Have you been to the Upper Peninsula?
That's where we went. I thought maybe the more north I go, because she lived in the southern part of Michigan, so I figured, okay, maybe if we go all the way up to the UP, we'll get some colors. And I think I was just a few days too early.
Yeah, I love the UP. I've been up there 4 or 5 times. It actually starts in the western UP and then moves eastward. I've been to the Munising area.
Hey, that's where we were. Munising and Eau Claire, I believe it is.
Something Claire.
Yeah. Right up along the Lake Superior shoreline.
Yeah,
it was cold. It was cold in the mornings. It was about 42 degrees, and for a Florida boy, I was pretty chilly. But it just wasn't quite there yet. And I think I probably missed it by probably a week, unfortunately. So,
well, maybe you get back there again. It's a great place.
Well, like I said, she moved to Virginia, so I'm gonna go check out that and see if I can maybe get some fall colors there, and maybe go over to the mountains of West Virginia. So maybe, fingers crossed.
Actually, Blackwater Falls is a really nice place that's not too far a couple hours from where I am, actually.
Well, perfect. All right, Howard, we're starting to run low on time. But thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it, and appreciate the chance to get to talk.
It was great to learn more about you and learn about your channel, and I just appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
I appreciated the invite.
All right, Howard. Have a great evening.
Take it easy, Paul.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.